Parliamentary Service Commission, which nominates 4 out of the 7 members of the panel. The proposal will allow the Political Parties Liaison Committee, established under Section 38 of the Political Parties Act No. 11 of 2011, and the Public Service Commission to each nominate 1 member to the panel. The bill neither delegates legislative powers nor does it contain provisions limiting fundamental rights and freedoms. This is a bill concerning county government in terms of Article 110, subsection 1A of the Constitution. The enactment of this bill shall not occasion additional expenditure of public funds to be provided for in the estimate. This bill originated from the National Assembly, and it has been read for the first time in the Senate, and so this morning in this special sitting the senators will debate it for the second reading. And also the senator-elect for Elgeyo Marakwet, Honorable Kisang William Kipkemoi, will take the oath of office this morning. My name is Edward Kabasa. I now hand you over for this live broadcast of the special sitting of the Senate on this 19th of January 2023.
Let us pray. Ewe Mwenyezi Mungu, tukusihi ututazame kwa neema nyingi na baraka sisi watumishi wako ambao umeturidhika kutuita kwa nyadhifa za uongozi katika jamhuri hii yetu. Tukuomba utuajalie tuyatende na kufikiria mambo yote yatakayofikishwa mbele yetu kwa njia ya haki na uaminifu, ili kustawisha amani, ufanisi na heri ya nchi hii yetu na wale ambao haja zao umezikabidhi mikononi mwetu. Amen. Claude, we have quorum? Okay, we'll proceed with the first order, please.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Kisang William Kipkemoi, Senator-elect, Elgeyo Marakwet County.
working. Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to introduce to you the Honorable William Kipkemoi Kisang, Senator-elect for Elgeyo Marakwet County. Welcome, Mr. Speaker.
I, William Kipkemoi Kisang, having been elected a member of the Senate, do swear in the name of the Almighty God that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the people and the Republic of Kenya, that I will pay, respect, uphold, preserve, protect, and defend this Constitution of the Republic of Kenya, and that I will faithfully and conscientiously discharge the duties of a member of Parliament. So help me God.
Congratulations, Senator. Thank you. These are the tools of trade. Can navigate corridors of the Senate. So we should Congratulations. Next order, please.
Order number 2, communication from the chair.
Honorable Senators, I welcome you to this special sitting of the Senate. This may be the very first time in 2023 that we are meeting. Allow me to take this opportunity to wish you a happy and prosperous New Year. On the request of the Senate Majority Leader, via letter reference number CIN/MLS/01/CORR, dated 16th January 2023, and with the support of the requisite number of senators, I appointed today, Thursday, 19th January 2023, as a day for a special sitting of the Senate. Via Gazette Notice number 455, dated 2023. In the Gazette Notice, I indicated that the business to be transacted at this special sitting shall be 1. The swearing in of Honorable William Kipkemoi Kisang, the Senator-elect of Elgeyo Marakwet County, which we have just done, and 2, the consideration of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bills number 49 of 2022. Honorable Senators, in accordance with Standing Order 33.5, the business specified in the Gazette Notice referred to above and as outlined in the order paper shall be the only business before the Senate during the special sitting, following which the Senate shall stand adjourned until Tuesday, 14th February 2023 at 2:30 p.m. in accordance with the Senate calendar. I thank you, Honorable Senators. Honorable Senators, I would like to acknowledge the presence of the following persons in the Speaker's Gallery. 1, the Honorable Sudi David, former Member of Parliament for Marakwet East and party leader of the New Democrats. And 2, Captain retired Jimmy's Wanyoni Wafubwa, who are in the Senate for a visit. Honorable Senators, on behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, I welcome the said dignitaries to the Senate and wish them well for the remainder of their visit. I thank you, Honorable Senators. Honorable Senators, at its meeting held on Wednesday, 18th January 2023, the Senate Business Committee considered the order papers for the morning and afternoon sittings during today's special sittings. The committee noted that the business before the Senate is critical and of utmost urgency, noting that the vacancy is the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. Honorable Senators, during the deliberations, the Senate Business Committee noted some members of 4 standing committees, namely the Standing Committee on Health, the Standing Committee on Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries, Standing Committee on Devolution and Intergovernmental Relations, and the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations are out of the country on official business. The number of senators in these committee engagements are substantial and may affect the threshold required to vote on the bill under consideration. Honorable Senators, considering these circumstances and pursuant to Standing Order 258-1A, I designated today's special sitting to hybrid to enable Honorable Senators who are out on official Senate business to participate. Therefore, pursuant to Standing Order 259-1, I issued a notice in today's order papers to the fact that today's sittings will be hybrid and indicated the online platform to be used. Further, pursuant to Standing Order 258-4, I issued guidelines to the effect that only those senators in the cited committee delegations will be allowed to participate virtually. Part 32 of the Senate Standing Orders on virtual sittings will apply during the hybrid special sittings. The Senate stands guided. And therefore, members, if there's a senator who is not out of the country on official business, that senator may not be able to take advantage of this particular facility. It is only those senators who are out of the country on official business. For those who are on holiday, sorry, they may not be able to participate in today's proceedings. It is only those senators who are out on official business. Kindly stand guided. Thank you, senators. Next order.
Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
The chairperson of the Standing Committee on Justice, Legal Affairs and Human Rights, kindly proceed to lay your paper on the table.
Honorable Speaker, Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the Senate today, the 19th January 2023. That is the report of the Standing Committee on Justice, Legal Affairs and Human Rights on its consideration of the Independent Electoral
Senator
and Borders Commission.
What is your point of order?
Asante Bwana Spika. Bwana Spika, tunaona ya kwamba tuko na mwenzetu sasa, seneta aliyechaguliwa ameingia na ameapishwa. Kama ilivyo kawaida yetu, nafikiria huwa muhimu kwanza tuweze kumkaribisha na pia kumpatia kongole yake kubwa, kwa sababu alifanya uchaguzi ambao ulipiganiwa na yeye aliweza kushinda, na hilo ni jambo la kujivunia. Amekuja hapa, kwa hiyo nafikiria maseneta, Bwana Spika, ingekuwa vyema kama wangepewa nafasi kuweza kumpatia kongole mmoja wao ambaye ameingia ndani ya hili bunge la Senate, upande ule walio wengi na upande huu walio wachache. Asante Bwana Spika.
Very well, Senator Mazayo. We will allow the chairperson of JLAC to proceed to lay the report. Thereafter, I will allow 3 speakers from both sides, 1 minute each, to congratulate the newly sworn-in senator. So proceed, Chairperson JLAC.
Thank you once again, Honorable Speaker. I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the Senate today, the 19th of January 2023, report of the Standing Committee on Justice, Legal Affairs and Human Rights on its consideration of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bills number 49 of 2022.
So we'll proceed to receive the congratulatory messages, and I'll start with Senator Osotsi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to welcome my friend, Honorable William Kisang. Mr. Speaker, I will start by congratulating Honorable Chesang for having for having won very stiff competition. We all witnessed what was happening in Marakwet, and I think he deserves the win. Honorable Kisang, we served together in the National Assembly for 5 years, and he was the chair of the ICT committee where I was a member for 5 years. And I remember him to have been a good chair who understood the work of a chair of a committee, and he was very competent. And Mr. Speaker, I remember an incident when the Jubilee Party in the National Assembly was carrying out a purge, and they sent home several chairs of committees. I think it's only 2 chairs who survived. That was Honorable William Chesang and Kato Lemetito. And they survived not because they were favored by the then government. They survived because they were very competent chairs who were able to lead their committees without favorism and without regard of political affiliation of their members. So I can give a testimony in this house that Honorable Kisang is going to serve the people of Marakwet competently as their senator. He has done 10 years in the National Assembly. He understands what entails to oversight, and I think people of Marakwet.
Honorable Senator, your time is up. The Honorable Kenyua. Your time is up, Senator.
Asante Bwana Spika, nataka kuungana na mwenzangu kumkaribisha Senator William na kwa kazi nzuri aliyofanya mpaka akaibuka mshindi. Bwana Spika, nataka kusema ya kwamba Senator yule ni mgeni ambaye ameungana na sisi, anakuja kutetea kaunti ya Elgeyo Marakwet pamoja na kaunti zote za Jamhuri ya Kenya. Lakini ni vizuri ajue ya kwamba Senator aliyemtangulia, Senator sasa waziri Kipchumba Murkomen, ni mtu aliyebombea sana katika seneti hii na hata Jamhuri ya Kenya kwa kazi yake, na najua ya kwamba viatu ambavyo atakavyo vivani vikubwa kidogo, lakini najua atajizatiti kwa sababu yeye anamjua ni mchapakazi. Namjua vizuri kwa sababu alipokuwa katika kamati ya ICT akiwa mwenyekiti katika National Assembly, mimi mwenyewe nilikuwa katika kamati hiyo hapa katika seneti. Kwa hivyo tulifanya naye kazi na ina hakika ya kwamba
Senator, your time is up, fortunately. Senator Mudhama Agnes Kavindu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to welcome the Senator Elgeyo Marakwet. And before I do that, Mr. Speaker, allow me to say Happy New Year to all senators and even the senator who is coming in. Congratulations for your win. Welcome. We'll work with you, and I'm sure you'll be able to deliver to the people of Elgeyo Marakwet like Murkomen was doing in this house. We expect you to do the same. So if you are fitting in the shoes of Murkomen, the bar is high, so tighten your belt. Welcome. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Senator Kathuri.
Nashukuru sana Bwana Spika kwa nafasi hii ndio niweze kumkaribisha rafiki yangu seneta mpya ambaye amechaguliwa juzi, Bwana William Kisang. Bwana Kisang tumefanya kazi na yeye miaka 10 pale bungeni, bunge la taifa. Kwa hiyo miaka 10 najua ni kiongozi ambaye alifanyia watu wake kazi wa constituency yake sana. Na nachukua nafasi hii kuwapongeza wale pia wageni naona wako kwa hii nyumba kutoka Elgeyo Marakwet sababu ya kumuunga mkono na kumchagua Mheshimiwa Kisang kuwa seneta wao. Bwana Kisang, nakukaribisha katika nyumba hii kwa roho safi sana sababu wewe ni rafiki yangu wa kindani sana. Na kabla ya uchaguzi tuliongea nawe sana tukiwa ziara fulani ya kikazi, na tukasema mimi nikakwambia naenda seneti na wewe ukaenda pande ile nyingine. Kwa hivyo nashukuru Mungu sababu ametuunganisha tena tuweze kufanyia Wakenya kazi, na mimi nikiwa naibu speaker hapa tutaungana na uingie, naomba uingie kwa kamati ile yako mzuri ulikuwa unapenda ICT na zingine zile unataka kufanyia kazi ndio tuweze kutekeleza kazi yetu vizuri. Nashukuru sana Bwana Speaker.
Honorable Mazayo.
Asante Bwana Speaker. Bwana Speaker, kwanza nataka kumpatia kongole ya juu sana ndugu yetu Kisang William Kipkemoi. Amefanya juhudi ya nguvu sana kuweza kubwaga wale wengine na yeye kupata nafasi ya kuja hapa kama senator wa Elgeyo Marakwet. Hilo ni jukumu la watu wa Marakwet ambao wamekupatia na ni lazima wafanyie kazi. Ninaona pia vile vile umeambatana na delegation kubwa sana. Hiyo ni kumaanisha kwamba wako na imani na wewe. Kitu ambacho mimi naweza kukueleza ni kwamba ukiwa hapa kama seneta ni lazima utaona ya kwamba vile tunavyojadiliana hapa ni bunge ambalo liko na watu wako na akili, wako na elimu, wanaelewa wanayofanya. Ni watu ambao wamekomaa kisawa sawa. Kwa hiyo ndugu yangu Kisang, nataka kusema ya kwamba wewe umekuja hapa kama seneta, tunakuunga mkono, tunakuombea kila laheri ya kwamba wafanyie watu wa Elgeyo Marakwet shughuli waliokuletea hapa kama seneta wao, na kutakia kila laheri katika utendakazi wako. Asante Bwana Speaker.
Senator Gataya Mofire.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I sincerely wish to welcome my brother for Elgeyo Marakwet. This house has manufactured the political giants. This is the house where Honorable Murkomen used to sit. This is the house where Honorable Professor Kadule Kedike used to sit, and so many other members of the Senate of the high ranking. So Honorable, my brother Sesang, I'm happy that you won. It has been very tiresome, very cumbersome, and this house stays like a family, just one house. We have no issues to do with anybody, and we wish you the best as you interact with members of this house. Most welcome.
The Honorable Kisang, I know this is your maiden speech, but be mindful of the business ahead. Kindly proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I wish to take this opportunity to thank God for the opportunity that He has given me to serve the great people of Elgeyo Marakwet County. I also wish to thank the people of Elgeyo Marakwet County for giving me the same opportunity, my campaigners, my competitors, and all who participated in the by-elections of the 5th of January 2023. Honorable Speaker, there are many things and pledges that I made to the people of Elgeyo Marakwet County. Even this house, the members who have spoken, say the Professor Kithure Kindiki, CS was here, Murkomen was here, and I want to promise that I'll measure to the standards of those members you mentioned. I've been told the shoes that Murkomen wore in this house were big or large, and I want to promise mine might be larger than this also. So you'll watch. I want you to watch this space for the next 4.5 years. I want to promise that I'll deliver. I'll debate. As my colleagues have said, those were in National Assembly. I was the chair ICT. And those who survived the batch that was there was only 2 members, myself and the current controller of State House, Kato Olemetito. Because of what we did, we served the nation impartially. And I want to promise that is what I'm going to do in this house. Of course, being loyal also to my party. Honorable Speaker, I want to promise the people of Elgeyo Marakwet County that the promises that I made, that because the current revenues, the resources that Elgeyo Marakwet County is receiving from national allocation is very low. We are actually bottom 3. I'll be coming to this house during revision of the revenue allocation and convince you to help so that we change the formula to ensure Elgeyo Marakwet County resources increase from the current 4.6 billion to about 7 because of the terrain. Elgeyo Marakwet County is very unique. It's not the same as the other counties because the way God made that particular county. There are many other things that I promised that I'm going to do, including setting up of a new university in that particular county. There are dams that were suspended because of political issues. Aror and Kimgare Dam, we have Prosper and many others, and including other infrastructure. Honorable Speaker, because you've said because of the business that before the House, I don't want to spend a lot of time, but I want to promise you that I'll be very active. I believe the leadership of the House is also planning to put me in the relevant committees, especially committees where I have expertise, and also committees that will target mainly the counties. Because in this particular House, as you've said, it's a house, it's a family. And our business, we are delegate from the counties, and will ensure the money, the resources that go to the counties, our people get value for money. And that is what I promise that I'll do. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity. And God bless you. Happy New Year, everybody in this House, and also Kenyans at large. And my supporters and my family, thank you very much for standing with me.
Thank you, Honorable Kisang, and welcome to the Senate. Next order, Clerk.
Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, statements. Order number 8, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bills number 49 of 2022, second reading.
The Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 49 of 2022, be now read a second time. Mr. Speaker, the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission Bill, this is a bill of the National Assembly that was first published there. Perhaps because, to the best of my recollection, Mr. Speaker, this is the first time I'm moving a National Assembly bill before this House. And so to the benefit of the new members, some of whom may be asking why we are moving a National Assembly bill in the Senate, is that this is purely about nomenclature. That if a bill is named after the originating House, if a bill begins its legislative journey in the Senate, even when it's read in the National Assembly, it will be referred to as a Senate Bill number XYZ. So, Mr. Speaker, on 1st of December, the National Assembly passed this bill without any amendments, and thereafter the bill was referred to us for consideration. And that is why we are here today. The principal objects of the bill, Mr. Speaker, is to amend the IEBC Act in its first schedule, which provides for membership of the selection panel for purposes of appointment of chairman or members of the IEBC. Mr. Speaker, sir, the proposed amendments to the Act were necessitated by the declaration by the High Court through Constitution Petition number E36 of 2020 by now Senator Okiya Omtata, then just as a ordinary citizen, versus the AG. And I'll be making a particular comment about our colleague senator. There are things that I wish to better understand, especially in the unique situation that we find ourselves in, now being our colleague, and there are things that we discuss here. Perhaps you may need to guide us later, but I'll speak about it later. I wish he was in the House when I was saying this, Mr. Speaker, and I hope so. So the bill seeks to cure the above cited malady as proscribed by the High Court in its ruling, reducing the number of membership of the PSC, that is the Parliamentary Service Commission, from 4 to 2, and to allow the Political Parties Liaison Committee and the Public Service Commission to each nominate one member to the panel. So, Mr. Speaker, specifically, the bill proposes that the following new paragraphs, that's 1, 2, on the composition of the panel be as follows. That is 1 man and 1 woman. I love that. It's a new way, actually, of drafting our legislation, Mr. Speaker. We are becoming more descriptive. If you have followed the journey of legislations in Parliament, Mr. Speaker, on many occasions we just used to say 2 members. But now it's increasingly becoming a culture where if you have 2, you specify and say at least a man and a woman.
I expected that my good friend Beth will be stamping her feet and all the women in the house, because that's good progress for the women folk of this country, Mr. Speaker. So 2 nominated by PSC, specified, has to be a man and a woman. Then 1 nominated by Public Service Commission, 1 nominated by Political Parties Liaison Committee, 1 nominated by the LSK, Law Society of Kenya, and 2 persons nominated by Interreligious Council. You know, Mr. Speaker, over time, and I say this because I know you are an interested party and maybe the leader of minority and a few other lawyers in the House, but we will soon be discussing about LSK. Almost every legislation that we pass in this House, we keep on proposing, oh, LSK needs to have people. What about architects in this country? What about engineers, Mr. Speaker? What about doctors? What about border riders? You know, especially us that profess the bottom-up economic approach. So this business of allocating almost every position in any commission that we pass here to LSK, I believe it is time that we reconsider it, Mr. Speaker. Even our auditors and the rest, Mr. Speaker, needs to be considered. Of course, I know lawyers will protest, Mr. Speaker, but we'll have that conversation. I urge the honorable senators to consider and pass this important bill to ensure that the IBC selection panel is constitutionally constituted, allow them to effectively perform their mandate. Mr. Speaker, you know, this is a very interesting scenario. I know the journey of this bill very well. I was in this parliament when we passed it, Mr. Speaker, and I also happened to have served in PSC at that particular time when we did the selection panel. There were very interesting intrigues back then. When we retreated, and I made these revelations a few days ago, I think 2 days ago, at State House when we were celebrating the exit of the chairman of IBC, Wafula Chebukati. And Mr. Speaker, I made the observation that the law as then prescribed in my thinking, and I still hold that particular view, that 4 members nominated by PSC is not arrogating ourselves as Parliament too much powers, because Parliament is a reflection of the entire country. Everybody knows that Parliament has 2 sides, the minority and the majority. And even then, as we sat in PSC, we wrote letters to leadership of both houses, the majority side and the minority side, and asked them to each nominate 2 members to the selection panel. The only unfortunate thing, Mr. Speaker, is that at that time, because of the handshake politics that existed, the majority and the minority were one side. Therefore, it ended that one side of the political divide ended up nominating actually all the members of a selection panel. And that gave birth to the infamous, what are now being referred to as OPEC 4. It's a history that we wouldn't wish to go back to, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, for people to go to court and say that if Parliament gives itself that kind of powers, we are actually emasculating out the rest of reflection of society, I feel I do not agree with that ruling. And it's unfortunate. If it was not for the unique situation that we find ourselves in, Mr. Speaker, where the chairperson has now left office and 2 commissioners, and therefore we need to set up a selection panel to bring into place a constitutional commission, because, Mr. Speaker, you understand the urgency. If today, for whatever reason, there was to be a by-election, and you know there are many petitions in court, or even in the unfortunate event that for whatever reason a vacancy arose in any of the House, despite the constitutional provision that we have to do an election, IBC must carry an election within 90 days. There is no commission to run that particular. Therefore, this business is extremely important, Mr. Speaker. But I go back to my point on Parliament being the nominating body. This is a political process, Mr. Speaker. What I expected, perhaps our colleague, and it's unfortunate, as I've said, Senator Mtata is not here, to have argued, is how the composition of that 4 members of the selection panel is arrived at, so that you have the shade of the country. Because when Parliament is gathered like this, every form of political opinion in this country is reflected. And therefore, it is erroneous to argue that out of 7, if you give Parliament the power to nominate 4, you have actually rewarded Parliament. You know, Senator Okiya Mtata presents us with a unique situation, Mr. Speaker. Now he sits in JLAC. And I wanted to say this when he's here, but unfortunately, he is not here with us. As a member, say, of Justice and Legal Affairs or whatever committee of Senate, he will sit with us. But you may need to guide us, Mr. Speaker, if after listening to arguments, say, about a particular bill, the pros and cons, you know, members, before they conclude on or make a decision on a particular bill, Mr. Speaker, they take their time to listen to arguments from both sides of or whatever people are presenting before us and make a decision in the best interest of a country. If somebody was to sit in that committee, sit here, we vote together, the decision of Parliament or Senate, even as a house, carries the day. Then they move to court and use information, or what will then be referred to as evidence, that they acquired through the lawmaking process. Mr. Speaker, that presents us with a very unique constitutional equation that you may want to guide us and give a ruling on. Whether it is possible for a member to participate in our proceedings, then once you conclude, you go back and injunct the same house that you participated in. I don't think we've ever found ourselves in this situation, but it's something that I wouldn't wish to derail us. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, this is a very straightforward process that I want to urge colleague senators that we quickly dispense of this business of nominating the 7 members of a selection panel. I have taken time to see the report of the committee that has been tabled here. There are various proposals, but I must say that I am disturbed by some of the proposals. Omtata reduced PSC from 4 to 2. Now JLAC wants to reduce from 2 to 1. It will take a lot of convincing for me to agree to that proposal that, Mr. Speaker, you want to legislate ourselves out of work. Surely, how can you be a member of Parliament and you don't believe that we can rise above petty partisan politics and do that which is good for the country? Anyway, we will make that decision in the afternoon, Mr. Speaker, when you are doing the committee of the whole. But I'd wish to listen to arguments, especially by members of JLAC, to convince us how they want to spread these 7 members. Because, you know, if you speak about the rank of the institutions that are being listed there, PSC to me is the most accommodative because it has both members of majority and minority. When you speak about interreligious council, because this country is unique, we have the members of a Christian faith, Muslim faith, Hindu. So I believe when they sit and we give them 2 slots, they will agree, pick a Christian and perhaps one of the other religions, either Hindu, Muslim, Rastafarian, or those ones of the ones Sifuna professors of Jehovah Wanyonyi, you know, any of those adherents, and bring us, it's just important that because you're talking about religion, let it not be one religion that is proposing, and the rest can be followed, Mr. Speaker. I don't intend to take a lot of time, Mr. Speaker, because I see time is far much spent, and I know we must conclude on this business by 12:30 if we want to move on to the second stage. Therefore, with those many remarks, Mr. Speaker, I beg to move and request Senator Boni Halwale, the majority whip, to second and guide us on to the next stage. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Boni.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second this very important motion. And Mr. Speaker, before I do so, allow me, Mr. Speaker, to acknowledge the 13th Parliament, both the Senate and the National Assembly. Being a leader in this republic who has been on these streets for a while, I am seeing that the 13th Parliament, both the National Assembly and the Senate, are demonstrating serious maturity and serious commitment to their legislative role. Why do I say this, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, starting with this House, this is the second time you are recalling us for a special sitting, and as the public can see, we are here in full numbers. This is serious commitment. Number 2, the National Assembly, they have risen to that maturity, Mr. Speaker, by unanimously agreeing to move that this bill that is before us passes without amendments. Mr. Speaker, that the leader of the majority is asking us to pass this bill without amendments. It is the maturity that the country needs. We cannot be divided on everything, including the important things and the small things and the big things. We must demonstrate national leadership by agreeing on the things that require to be fixed. The IEBC, for those who are uncomfortable that probably political parties should be given more people and that kind of argument, let me tell you, you are here today because you are elected on UDA, because you are elected on ODM, Jubilee, and so on. But 4 years from now, you have no idea on which party you'll be elected. Politics is dynamic. And therefore, just to root yourself there that this is the position that my coalition or my party wants me to push, you are refusing the fact that politics is dynamic. I therefore, Mr. Speaker, appeal to colleagues, members on the majority side, and request members on the minority side that this is the time for us to join ranks to demonstrate to the country that we are not sitting this morning and this afternoon to pick commissioners of IEBC. We are sitting this morning and this afternoon, Mr. Speaker, to create the path, to create a roadmap that will be used to identify these distinguished members. I therefore would like people to forget that maybe I was sympathetic to the outgoing chairman, Wafula Chebukati, or that another person was sympathetic to the other commissioner who resigned, Juliana Cherera. That is not the debate. The debate is that let us create a path, a proper route map, and Mr. Speaker, with those few remarks, I second.
Honorable Senators, I now do propose the question that the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bills number 49 of 2022, be now read a second time. Yes, what's your point of order, Senator?
Mr. Speaker, I wish to propose, pursuant to Standing Order number 111.1, I beg to move that the debate on the motion appearing on the order paper 8 be limited to a maximum of 4 minutes per senator. And I request Senator Sigei to second.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to support the motion moved by the Honorable Senator Deputy Majority Whip to limit the time for debate on the motion to 4 minutes. And Mr. Speaker, the reasoning behind that is because of the nature of the business that we have got to transact in the House between now and the timelines of midday and thereafter in the afternoon. I therefore support the motion. Thank you.
Honorable Senators, this is a rather straightforward issue, which I don't want us to really debate on it. The bill before us is extremely important, and I know each and every one of us would wish to contribute to this bill. If we allow the 20 minutes per senator, most of you will not have an opportunity to speak to this bill. And therefore, by consensus, I think we should agree that we proceed at least to allocate 4 minutes per senator. 5 minutes. Do we go with 5 minutes? Honorable Senators, we are going to proceed with 5 minutes per senator. Is that the consensus of the House? We proceed that way. Save for the minority leader, we are going to exempt him from that particular time limit by virtue of his position. He is going to be allocated 10 minutes. Equally, the leader on the government side, if he has to contribute, we're also going to exempt him. We're going to allocate him 10 minutes. Senator Mazayo.
Asante Bwana Spika. Bwana Spika, kitu cha kwanza nataka kuunga mkono mageuzi yanayotakiwa na jopo letu la kamati ya haki, mambo ya sheria, haki za binadamu kuhusu uteuzi wa makamishna wa jopo huru, uchaguzi na mipaka. Bwana Spika, kitu cha kwanza ni kwamba vyama vya kisiasa vimeweza kupewa kila mtu aweze kuchagua mtu wake. Hili ni jambo ambalo ndilo ambalo lingeweza kusema ya kwamba ikiwa hatutapata, pengine kungekuwa na upinzani mkubwa sana, lakini ya kwamba hivi sasa tunaona ya kwamba katika kile kipengele chake cha pili katika mageuzi haya tunaona ya kwamba vyama vya siasa vimeweza kupata hiyo nafasi. Kitu ambacho mimi nataka kusema ni kwamba sijaona lile shirika la wafanyikazi ama shirika la public service limeingia hapa, na hilo ndio tashwishi ya kwamba shirika hilo la Public Service Commission pengine lisingefaa kuwa hapa. Hiyo nambari, ningependa pia kukubaliana na kiongozi wa walio wengi, ni kwamba hiyo nambari ya Public Service Commission ama shirika la wafanyikazi wa umma ingeweza kupewa wabunge ama ingeweza kupewa ingeweza kupelekwa katika vile vyama, hiyo nambari ikaongezeka hapo. Kwa hiyo sioni kwamba pengine kuna shida sana, lakini sioni sababu ya kwamba hilo shirika la umma liweko katika hiyo hesabu. Pili, nataka kukumbusha ya kwamba tunaelewa ya kwamba katika hali ya uchaguzi ndani ya nchi yetu ya Kenya kuna kuwa na shida kubwa sana wakati sisi tukiwa tunafanya uchaguzi. Watu huweza kuwa na ukabila, watu huweza kuwa na kutengana kwa sababu ya kura. Lakini sisi tunasema ikiwa watu wa dini wanaweza kupewa nafasi hizo, na pia vile vile hawa watu wa dini wakaweza kupewa nafasi ya kuchagua mume mmoja na mke mmoja, litakuwa jukumu lao kuweza kuleta hawa watu katika hii jopo la wale ambao wataweza kuchagua makamishna. Bwana Spika, ya mwisho nikitaka kusema ya kwamba ni lazima tuzingatie, Bwana Spika, ni lazima tuzingatie uhuru wa IEBC, kwa sababu mara nyingi tunaona ya kwamba IEBC inaweza kuingiliwa ama inaweza pia ikaweza kuwa na upotevu fulani ambao wanaweza kama vile alivyokuwa akiongea huyu Chebukati, ni kwamba aliweza kutendewa vitu fulani ambavyo havikuwa na pengine ushahidi wa kutosha, lakini tunasema tu ya kwamba ikiwa kutakuwa na vitu kama hivyo, basi kutakuwa na umuhimu sana kuona ya kwamba shirika ambalo linasimamia uchaguzi ndani ya nchi yetu liweze kuwa huru sana, lisiwe huru kidogo ya kwamba wanaweza kuingiliwa ama wanaweza kuambiwa kitu fulani, lakini liwe linaweza kuwa huru zaidi. Kwa hiyo mimi katika maoni yangu, Bwana Spika, ninaona ya kwamba hii ndio njia ya kwenda, na mimi naunga mkono hii hoja. Asante sana.
The Honorable Danson Mungatana.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to also make my contribution in this very important debate. Mr. Speaker, I wanted to bring a new perspective and a new thinking into this debate. The amount of suspicion and the amount of emotion that goes into electioneering comes because people don't trust the process. Mr. Speaker, I wanted to congratulate the majority leader and those behind him in the team for starting the look at the electoral laws at an early stage so that we can develop trust before actual electioneering takes place. And I'm very happy to hear, even from the side of opposition, our colleagues on this side saying they are comfortable because they have been given an opportunity to participate from the beginning in the selection of the commissioners who are going to manage our elections. Mr. Speaker, we should support this in a bipartisan manner. And I will pray that majority leader will go back and look at the rest of the electoral laws that we need to look at, Mr. Speaker. Particularly, if we can properly fix the question of the integrity of the elections as far as the computer, the transmission, and all these things that surround it is concerned, particularly use of electronic system. If it can be perfected, Mr. Speaker, then all these processes don't become an issue. Mr. Speaker, I'm even urging that we should not only do it with the IEBC, but we should go further to look at our own political parties. If we can make our systems to be electronic, therefore removing the human interference bit of it, and our political parties are good, they have proper electronic system to manage their nominations, and then even a better system at the IEBC, then these processes, Mr. Speaker, will not really be a matter of concern to all of us. In fact, Mr. Speaker, we can quickly agree on the selection panel if we are happy with the integrity of the system that will manage the election. We can easily agree on who the commissioners are if the system is devoid of human interference. And Mr. Speaker, my urge this morning is to tell the teams that are working, and particularly Jay, to take a step, suo moto, invite the IEBC. Let us get all these laws in place, particularly the laws that say, let us protect the integrity of the electronic voting system. So that, Mr. Speaker, if everybody is happy, then even when you lose your election, you will not have a problem. Mr. Speaker, I support this bill and this amendment. Thank you.
The Honorable Senator Sifuna Edwin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. From the onset, let me say that I hold a very different view on the matter that is before the House this morning. Mr. Speaker, two specific problems I have with the bill as presented before us in sabbatical 2B and C. Mr. Speaker, when you go to determine who the stakeholders in any institution are, a very cursory search of what the word stakeholder means is that it is a party that has an interest in an institution and can either affect or be affected by the business of that institution. Mr. Speaker, there are many stakeholders in the political process. Of course, every single citizen has an interest in the operations of the IEBC and in the elections and politics of this country. But you have to identify the primary stakeholders and secondary stakeholders. I would be urging this House to consider that, in fact, when it comes to the business of the IEBC, the primary stakeholders are the political actors and especially those represented through their various political parties. I will give an example, Mr. Speaker. There were certain controversies at the onset of society that needed to be settled. For instance, the divinity of Christ, whether Christ is divine or whether he is to be made, or even the criteria to be used in settling the Gospels, which books were going to go into what is known today as the Bible, Mr. Speaker. There was convened something called the Council of Nicaea. This Council of Nicaea, Mr. Speaker, was fully composed of bishops and leaders in the Christian faith to settle these controversies. Another example, if you go to football, Mr. Speaker, the leadership of the Federation of Kenyan Football, the FKF, is determined by the clubs that play the league, Mr. Speaker. Those are the primary stakeholders. If you look at the leadership of, say, Rugby Kenya, is decided or selected by the rugby teams that are part of the league. What I'm trying to say, Mr. Speaker, is that for us as political players, and especially the political parties, I would be very, very hesitant to limit the number of slots allocated to the political players in this particular bill. Mr. Speaker, my biggest concern, I know the majority leader raised concern about the question of LSK. Many of these institutions interact with the law in their daily operations. My colleagues who are with us in the Mwangaza impeachment committee will bear me witness that they saw benefit of having at least one lawyer in that particular committee. There is some value that we bring, especially when the team and the institution has to interact with the law. Mr. Speaker, my biggest problem actually with this bill is with the Public Service Commission. Whose interests does the Public Service Commission represent? If you look at the composition of the Public Service Commission, it is a chair, vice chairperson, and 7 other members appointed by the President with the approval of the National Assembly. Mr. Speaker, if there is a partisan organization that can only serve to represent the interests of one side of the political divide, it's a Public Service Commission. I would be more inclined to return the one slot, Mr. Speaker, to the Parliamentary Service Commission, so that at least the minority side can get a slot, the majority side can get a slot. We get the PPLC, which is also representative of the political parties in this country that have the majority representation and the minority representation, to get a slot each. These things we are not doing because I am in ODM today, Mr. Speaker. There is no problem with me looking for a seat on any other political parties. But we are not doing this because I intend to run again in 2027. It is very possible, Mr. Speaker, that we can set an objective criteria that will affect or bring about some level of balance in the manner in which these panels are constituted. So that even if the Senator Thangwa from Kiambu, and we're having discussions with him, is convinced to join ODM and run on ODM in 2027, he will still find a representative of ODM on that selection panel. And even if I were to cross over, Mr. Speaker, it is an illustration, Senator Thangwa. Mr. Speaker, even if I were to cross over, I will find that there was already a slot on the panel that was allocated to the political party that I'm moving to. So these things are not about us, Mr. Speaker. It doesn't matter where you fall in 4 years' time. What we are saying is we can establish an objective criteria for us to be able to select these individuals who go on the panel to achieve some level of balance, Mr. Speaker. Finally, what I want to assure this House is that all of us, Mr. Speaker, whether you are a religious leader, whether you are a political leader, whatever field you operate in, you have biases, whether you acknowledge them or don't. Mr. Speaker, my party leader likes to say, even the Pope, when given a...
I'm afraid, Senator, your time is up. Senator Gathuri.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to contribute to this important motion, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I did support the report as it is, the motion which was presented by the majority leader. And Mr. Speaker, looking at the numbers, because what we need really is to get the IBC issue straight from the one go. I would be very happy if we really move away from controversies, because what we are looking ahead of us is the general elections for 2027. And we really need to move together as a team. Let us not be partisan on issues registration, because as the Senator of Nairobi has said, this is not about the parties which participated in the 2022 elections. It's about the future. We don't know what will happen tomorrow. Even at the moment, I can see a lot of movements and a lot of handshakes here and there. So let us register for posterity. And it is good that whatever came even actually from the National Assembly, I will be very happy to support it. So that as we are saying, we want to move together the two houses, we can start showing that magnanimity. Because I know also that committee sat and the allocations they have given the slots to various prayers, especially to the Inter-Religious Council of Kenya, the two slots, because we have diversity in our religious organizations. And also there is the Parliamentary Service Commission. I'm happy that they are specifying that one nominee should come from the minority side and another one from the majority side. That is being fair. Last time we had 4, and there was no specification on how those 4 could be shared. So I think the report from the National Assembly, I think is a bit fair. And also when you look also at the political parties council, those are small parties, let us say majority and minority in that council, because actually the players in this council are the small parties, some represented in the parliament and others which did not get any slot. So it is important also to move with them. Last time, Jubilee Party was the majority and it had so many members of parliament. Last elections, Jubilee Party is has almost 20 members. So you don't know which party will be majority tomorrow, which will be a small party tomorrow. Because I can see that party, maybe the next elections, it might get even 5 or so members. So let us really register for posterity so that we can get this reconstruct. I will be very happy even during the voting, this will be anonymous decision, which will be made by this House when we come to making decision after both the second reading and the committee stage in the afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Maanza Daniel.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to contribute on this very, very important piece of legislation. Mr. Speaker, you realize what is being amended, as has been quoted, is different. It was 2 men and 2 women nominated by Parliamentary Service Commission, 1 person nominated by Law Society of Kenya, 2 persons nominated by the Inter-Religious Council of Kenya. And now this has been expanded and improved to what now you have as an amendment. Mr. Speaker, the Electoral Commission is a very, very important commission in Kenya. This is the selection panel, which if is biased from beginning, then it's likely to be biased all the way. But it has a lot of checks and balances on its path, from the selection to the matter coming again to Parliament and the proceeding back for the appointments. Mr. Speaker, when an electoral commission, for whatever reason, seems to be biased, is likely to affect the stability of the nation. For example, recent allegations that possibly the chairman of the Electoral Commission could be assassinated, you know where the country is left if an eventuality like that was to happen in the future. First of all, it means there's no one to announce the results. And therefore, this matter, having these amendments under our committee, having improved on what the National Assembly has done, then it means the matter must now then proceed for mediation in one way or another. The whole idea is we should legislate for the future, for posterity, and for the future nation, for the future people of Kenya, many years to come. We should not legislate for purposes of the current government, or sometimes we may make legislation thinking it is for you, only for a new person or new government to benefit in that legislation. And that has happened before. When you are trying to make the constitution, some people want to make a constitution which is tailor-made for them, only to realize it is against them the next day. And for that matter, we must be seen to be fair. And I believe all these appointments can be skewed. What we need is higher moral authority by the people who will be dealing with this, so that there's no state interference at all. There's no interference from whatever part of the people, and that the people, for example, representing the religion, then one should be a Christian and the other one a Muslim, so that you balance the religious shades of opinion in the country. And I believe when you deal with the Public Service Commission, there is something positive about it, that Public Service Commission is the one which guides what sort of quality of a person you want to work for the people of Kenya. And then a Parliamentary Service Commission is very critical in that it represents us as the two houses. And I believe, Mr. Speaker, these amendments can be made better. Nothing at this stage closes any further amendments. And I believe also we mean well for the nation, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, the amendments as they are now, and I'm still going to continue consulting so that we can see whether we can improve this before we close this particular session, so that, Mr. Speaker, we can make something good for the nation. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Seki Lenku.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to support to this motion. It's a very important motion that has come. The Electoral and Boundaries Commission is a very important commission that determine the future of this country, as we have really witnessed. And I want to really support this motion by saying that we need to approve, we need to support it as it is. The amendments are quite in order. And I want to support that the clause on the Public Service Commission is a very important slot that is given to Public Service Commission, so that we also get people from different diversities, people from different experiences, people from different careers, and people with a lot of experiences who have also worked in Kenya. And I believe the Public Service Commission is a very recognized commission that's known by having a very high level of integrity. And I want to say that as we also recognize the presence of LSK, this is a chance that I think this lot has been distributed well. And we want to say we want to support this motion as it is, because we understand the issues that are ahead of us. We have issues of boundaries, and this is the chance that we really need to come in and have these structures well done, agreed together, so that we get people of integrity, people of who have some accountability in this country on time, without having more political interference. And because this is the right time, we are still in the early stages, we really need to support this motion as it is. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Senator Catherine Muma.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this chance. Honorable Speaker, I'm a member of JLAC, and I was part of every session that discussed these amendments, and I would like to thank our chair, who was there in every session, and the members for the robust debate that we had on this motion. Honorable Speaker, I actually prepared a minority report to this report, but for some reason or other, today at 9:20, the Secretariat told me that they had not submitted my minority report. But I'm glad that the floor is open for us to discuss, and my colleagues in JLAC are aware
that I had a slight different decision from what they had. Honorable Speaker, this selection panel is the most important selection panel for this country because it helps to select the body that makes the biggest political decisions in this country, and the body whose decisions can plunge us into problems or hold us up. Mr. Speaker, we have had problems with nearly every IEBC on record, except for the one that was picked after the selection by the IPPG. Mr. Speaker, the appointment of commissioners of IEBC is political, even though the Constitution puts it is supposed to be people who are neutral. And the selection panel needs to be able to balance the political interests of all political players in the country in order for there to be peace. Mr. Speaker, if from the word go the selection panel will be seen to be politically leaning on one side and not on the other, we are going to have a problem. Whoever they bring, even if they have integrity, will not be seen to have integrity. So I would want to urge members of this House to take this job seriously and not to hurry just because we need to put this selection committee in place and end up with a committee that is not acceptable to Kenyans. Mr. Speaker, in that discussion I suggested, is there a way in which we can increase members to 9 in order to take into account all the public contributions that we've received, suggesting that we bring on board other players. We were given an opinion that I disagreed with that said that we cannot amend from 7 to 9. But I conceded on that particular issue, but I still would want to understand the legal thinking behind curtailing Parliament's power to legislate and why we cannot move from 7 to 9. When it came to 7, my view is that the slots for Parliamentary Service Commission must be slots that can be shared by both sides of government and the opposition. We cannot have one. If we have one, there'll be a perception that that one slot is supposed to go either to one side or the other. That's going to bring a problem. So I suggested to the team that we need to retain 2 slots for the Parliamentary Service Commission. Mr. Speaker, initially I had suggested that religious organizations possibly have no business in this political space, and maybe they can take the 1 slot instead of Parliamentary Service Commission. But we were reminded that it is the practice, and it is true, that in this country we always have a balance of the Christian and other religious organizations. And I think retaining 2 slots for the religious organizations makes sense. Mr. Speaker, I therefore suggested the slot that has been brought in for the public.
I'm afraid, Senator, your time is up. The Honorable Senator Wakili Sigei.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker, once again for the opportunity to contribute to this motion. And from the very onset, I am also part of the team that went through the bill that came from the National Assembly as the chairman of the committee that the bill was committed to. And Mr. Speaker, while we appreciate the importance of the selection panel to the IEBC commissioners, we must also appreciate the importance of the history that we have had as a country. The history that has led to where we are is very, very important to the decisions that we are going to make. And Mr. Speaker, as the chairman of the committee, it's important for me to lay out the process where we have come from until where we are. And the committee of this House that was committed received the report on the 8th of December when this House sat, and it was thereafter committed to the standing committee to deal with the considerations. Mr. Speaker.
What is your point of order, Senator Kenywa?
Mr. Speaker, I thought from where I sit, it would be neat if the members of that committee, the ones who prepared this, if the chairman, like now chairman, were the last people to speak, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Speaker, if you would guide me on that.
There is no particular order. I think as senators, whether you are committee members or not, we would wish to harvest your thoughts on this particular report without necessarily having the members of the committee speak last. So proceed, Senator.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Yes, what is your point of order, my brother, Senator Kajwang?
Mr. Speaker, looking at the order paper, the distinguished senator has an amendment to this bill. Now, unless he has withdrawn that amendment, would it not be neat for him then to move his amendment so that he can move his amendment, we debate his amendment and dispense with it, because he cannot speak to the original version that came from the National Assembly and then later speak to his amendment?
Senator Kajwang, we have that session in the afternoon where the amendments shall be moved, debated, and voted through the committee of the whole. So proceed to conclude your comments.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for that guidance. And I was proceeding, Mr. Speaker, and I believe that I have been reserved the time which has been interrupted by the interventions by the Honorable Member from Laikipia and the Honorable Member Senator Kajwang. Mr. Speaker, I was indicating that pursuant to Article 118 of the Constitution and Standing Order 145.5 of this House, we proceeded as a committee.
What is your point of order, Senator Mazayo?
Bwana Spika, asante. Na nataka kusema ya kwamba je, ni sawa kwamba mwenyekiti wa JLAC ingekuwa vizuri ikiwa yeye atakuwa wa mwisho kuweza kuongea baada ya maseneta wote wameweza kuongea, kwa sababu akiongea yeye sasa alafu tena atapata nafasi tena ya kuongea wakati wa mchana, itakuwa haionekani kama ni jambo zuri sana. Hiyo ni kwamba tu kwa sababu yeye atakuwa na nafasi, atakuwa na muda mrefu wa kuweza kutueleza kisawasawa wakati wa mchana kwa nini analeta haya mageuzi kama haya. Itakuwa ni vyema apatie nafasi maseneta wengine waweze kuongea ili itaonekana katika taratibu iliyo sawa. Asante Bwana Speaker.
Honorable Senator, I made a ruling on that particular issue. The Honorable Senator for Laikipia rose on a point of order on the same issue, and I made a determination on it. The Honorable Kajwang rose on a point of order on the same issue, and I ruled on it. Therefore, you should stand guided by what I've given as a direction. You have to understand that at the end of this contribution, it's not even the chairman who is going to reply. It is the mover who is the majority leader. So these amendments that you are yearning to hear, you're certainly going to hear about this during the afternoon sitting when the substantive amendment shall be moved, debated, and you shall proceed to vote. We are proceeding on the debate as contained in the order as read by the clerk. Proceed, Senator Sige, and conclude your contribution. You have 2 minutes.
I should actually, Mr. Speaker, I should have utilized less than a minute. So if for purposes of interruption I've lost a minute, kindly indulge me. I was indicating that on the 9th of December, we published where we invited through a media publication the public to support or to raise issues, petitions or memoranda on the bill as was published. And Mr. Speaker, we did receive from a number of stakeholders, among them, Mr. Speaker, the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties, the Council of Governors, National Gender and Equality Commission, County Assembly Forum, Katiba Institute, among others, various considerations, including even Kenyans of goodwill. A gentleman by the name Mr. Eliud Malindi also gave in his support to the issues which had been raised in the bill. Mr. Speaker, we did as a committee proceed. I am aware that I will later on in the afternoon have a session to give a consideration of the amendments the committee is proposing, but it's important to lay the foundation of this session that the committee had. And Mr. Speaker, it was pursuant to what my colleague, the Honorable Senator Okia Omtata Koiti, had filed in petition number E364 of 2020, where the court gave directions or its finding to the extent that the selection panel, as it were, was not constitutional. Among, Mr. Speaker, the issues that the committee received for purposes of consideration were concerns which in the petition the court made its finding, including one, a reason and the basis to ensure that the selection panel complied with the provisions of Article 27(8) of the Constitution of Kenya on the issue on the 2/3 gender rule. We also did consider the provisions of Section 38 of the Political Parties Act on the element of the representation from the Political Parties Liaison Committee. Mr. Speaker, noting that this PPLC is a creation of an act of parliament that comprises concerns which had been raised to include the Independent and Electoral Boundaries Commission, which is actually a body with which that selection panel will be creating, and also the political parties, where my colleague, Honorable Sifuna, spoke into. And the committee, Mr. Speaker, indeed considered the fact that for purposes of posterity, we must ensure that the selection panel, the membership to that panel, are persons whose interest will be the interest that will be protecting the political class. Mr. Speaker, we had extensive conversations on it, and in the afternoon, of course, I'll be presenting the propositions which ultimately the committee had, and that is where the Honorable Kajwang and the team will have to also support or not support the propositions which we have. Mr. Speaker, the standing committee on the issues which had been presented before it executed the assignment with utmost fidelity, and I must appreciate the members of that committee. And at this stage, Mr. Speaker, I support the second reading of the bill as has been moved by the majority leader, and I stand to support. Thank you.
The Honorable Osotsi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to also make my comments on this very important bill. Mr. Speaker, election is the greatest risk to this country. And because of that, I think my colleague senators, this house has been known to be a house of reason. It has been known to be a house that engages in bipartisan arrangement whenever we have a matter of importance like this. I want to ask that today let us exercise that by looking at this matter objectively and thinking about the nation and not whichever side we are in. Mr. Speaker, I have looked at the amendments proposed by the Jailer Committee, and I want to agree with the Honorable Senator Sifuna that the process of conducting election is a political process, and that process must be done with the stakeholders in mind. So for the position of the one position for Parliamentary Service Commission, I want to suggest that we enhance it to 2 positions so that majority side has 1 slot and minority side has 1 slot, and that position we get it from Public Service Commission. Actually, there is no need for Public Service Commission, which conducts the interviews, to again give us a slot. Mr. Speaker, I've also looked at the 2 positions that have been given to religious council, and I think we need to be very clear. We either say 1 Muslim and 1 Christian, because when you say religious council, Mr. Speaker, there is no legislation establishing that particular body. So we need to be very clear on what we want to do. And Mr. Speaker, on the issue of LSK, a lot has been said, but I think it is discriminatory to always give Law Society of Kenya a position. What happens to the engineers? What happens to the IT people like me? What happens to teachers? I think it's discriminatory, because in any case, we can still get commissioners who are lawyers. Why insist on Law Society of Kenya getting a slot there? That is discriminatory. Mr. Speaker, having said that, we have an opportunity as senators to demonstrate leadership by agreeing on this. And today, it is not an issue of numbers. It is not an issue of competition on numbers. It is an issue of thinking about this country, where we are going to. We know the commission that is going to be chosen is a commission that is going to lead us into the process of boundary review and election in 2027. We want to get a commission that is acceptable, a commission that is competent, a commission that will unite this country, and not a commission that is going to divide us along party or tribal line. This country needs to move on, and we can only guide this country and move on if we make a good law for posterity, not a law that is going to give someone an edge over the other. We need a law that will be there for a long time to come. This law that we are trying to amend here is a law that we passed in this house during the just before the last election. It is barely 1 year in existence, and we are amending it. And those of us on the other side celebrated when we passed this law. So those senators on the other side, please don't celebrate, because it will come to haunt you in future. So for us as senators, we must ensure that the law we are going to pass today is a law that is going to be there for posterity, and a law that is not going to divide this country. Mr. Speaker, you have heard a lot about elections. There is a conversation outside there about election. I want to say that the president has said he's going to have a commission of inquiry. On this side, we welcome an independent commission of inquiry, because we have a lot we are going to say about this election. So please bring it as soon as possible, and if that commission of inquiry comes with the recommendation, we want the recommendations that are going to change the legal architecture of election in this country.
Senator, your time is up. The Honorable Senator Methu.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I also rise to support the bill that originated from the National Assembly. I think I want to agree with my colleagues who have spoken that we need to employ a bipartisan approach to this very matter. Many times I like referring to the chairman of the Security Committee of the Senate, Senator Cheptumo. He always reminds me that when he was chairman of JLAC at the National Assembly, he was not really very, very kind to the Senate. And as fate to David, he is now a member of the Senate, and he really regrets. So I would never want to regret that I participated in legislating a law that in future I will not be proud that I was part of that arrangement. Mr. Speaker, as many of my colleagues have spoken, this is a very, very important selection panel, one of the most important in this country, and it will require a lot of convincing from the chairman of the JLAC committee and his team on why he would want us to limit our powers. limit the powers of the Parliamentary Service Commission in reducing our numbers. Initially there were 4, the proposal was 4, then it went to 2, and then a proposal to have 1 is something that will require a lot of convincing. I think I would want to agree that we need to have 2 from the Parliamentary Service Commission, so that we could have 1 for the majority and 1 for the minority. I would have no problem in that, because I think it is, you know, Mr. Speaker, the second proposal that we have 1 from the leading political parties, the majority and the minority, there was a comment that was made by the leader majority here, that senators, my colleagues who are sitting on the government side, I give an example of Senator Kenywa. He joined the Senate as a member of the Jubilee Party, which was the majority, and he left that term as a member of the Jubilee Party from the minority side. He was in the Jubilee Party in the minority side. There were members of the Jubilee Party in the majority side. So, as fate would have it, we would not know what will happen. We only need to legislate and do what is the right thing. So I agree. We should get a member from each of the leading political parties. On religion, Mr. Speaker, I think I would want to disagree with a member who said that the whole matter is political. Despite the fact, the fact of the matter that IBC will be dealing with making political decisions, I would agree that we need religious players, both from all Christianity, Muslims, Hinduism, Buddhist, atheists, all of them. I don't think atheists should be there, but the other religions should be there. In the Bomas of Kenya, Mr. Speaker, you saw the kind of work that was done by the choir. They may not have been doing the political work, but they did a lot of work in reducing tension. So I think we agree we need religious players in the selection panel. Finally, the 2 that have been proposed to come from the Public Service Commission. I think the Public Service Commission is tasked with ensuring that we get the right people in all public offices. So to have 2 representatives from the Public Service Commission is also a very good proposal. So, Mr. Speaker, without taking a lot of time, I agree with all my colleagues who are here that our decision on this should be unanimous. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Dulo. Fatuma Dulo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish to confirm to the House that I'm a member of JLAC. I sat through actually part of the debate and discussion in the committee. Mr. Speaker, we have a history to this particular legislation. And I remember 2017, we had joint committee, both sides of the aisle, that looked at amendment to IEBC legislation. And I wish this particular time that should have happened. But having said that, Mr. Speaker, as a committee, we have looked through the amendment that came from National Assembly. And for me, we tried actually looking at how we should increase the numbers, which legally we were advised it was not possible because of the timeline and all other things. Mr. Speaker, we had a debate where actually some of the members were saying we remove 1 slot from religious institutions and give it to Parliamentary Service Commission. And the practice in this country, Mr. Speaker, is that when it comes to the matters of interfaith, we've always had two slots. 1 should be given to Christian and 1 to Muslims. And I categorically said in the meeting that if that position is not carried, I'm going to give a dissenting opinion. And that position still stands, even as far as this amendment is concerned. Mr. Speaker, I have no problem the slot of Public Service Commission to be given to Parliamentary Service Commission for the purpose of balancing. But in our discussion, we agreed on all this, and towards the tail end, some members tried to change their mind, which is okay. But it is also important for us to balance both sides of the aisle. And one of the things this committee did is amendment to political parties, which we took care of both sides. And I think it is important for us to also appreciate the role the committee played. Of course, not everybody will agree, but the committee has done a lot as far as this debate is concerned. Mr. Speaker, I know it is very difficult. It's a really difficult time, but we need to put our heads together and see how we can be able to take the interest of this country before us, instead of looking at political parties or individual interests. Mr. Speaker, I know there is amendment that is going to come in the afternoon, which we are either going to support or not. But the bottom line is the country to heal. We must heal. We must look at the history and see where we are heading. So it's not important who wins and who loses. The bottom line is how we are going and how we are going to heal this country. Because for years now, this country has been having problems with election laws. And I think in the report, Mr. Speaker, we said that the panel, or rather the stakeholders to various legislation, should be cured at the consensus of the speaker level. And I wish the speakers looked at this bill before it came to us, both houses. Because if those issues of stakeholders were resolved at that consensus level, we should not be having loggerhead today that we have before us. And we actually try suspecting each other. So I hope the Speaker, since you sit at the consensus level, maybe in future you need to look at the stakeholders as far as bills are concerned when such issues as panel will come up. And I thank you.
Senator Oburu Odinga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, sir, the bill which is before us is a very, very important one, Mr. Speaker. It is an important one because, Mr. Speaker, we are a young democracy and we are maturing, and we want to mature to be a mature democracy. Mr. Speaker, we don't want our standards of democracy to be compared with our neighbors and with the other countries in Africa. We want our democracy to be the best. We want to be compared with the best in the world. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, when we are talking of the IEBC, it is a very, very crucial tool in the election process, and we must not be partisan. Mr. Speaker, some people have mentioned here that when you make laws, sometimes you make laws thinking that you are on the better side of the divide and therefore you will always be there. But Mr. Speaker, things change and you might be at the other receiving end where you thought you will never be. So Mr. Speaker, when we make the laws, let it be for posterity, let it be for Kenyans, and let it be for improvement of our democratic process in this country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on this particular bill, I would like to support what is coming in the afternoon here, which is attached to this order paper as amendment proposed by the JLAC. Mr. Speaker, what I would like to comment on is on the inclusion of the Public Service Commission. Mr. Speaker, Public Service Commission is part of the executive, and the executive will is also represented here through the majority side. Mr. Speaker, there is really no reason why that one slot should go to the Public Service Commission, and I would have suggested that it goes to the Parliamentary Service Commission, where there's only one slot suggested, so that one slot will go to majority and the other slot goes to the minority, so that it is balanced in that way, the way it has been balanced for the political parties liaison committee, where you have one for the minority and one for the majority side. Mr. Speaker, sir, I would also have liked the religious groups who are proposed to have 2 slots, to have at least one from the Christian community and the other one from the other communities. The other communities, which is Muslim and maybe others, but I think it should be Muslim, specifically Muslim and Christian, and that should be specified in the bill. Mr. Speaker, I don't want to say more, but I would have liked a situation where this particular bill is discussed in the Senate in a bipartisan manner, where we don't take partisan positions, but we consider everything that is presented before us here objectively and for posterity, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, with those few remarks, I would like to support the bill. Thank you.
Karungo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. But before I give my submission, I'd want to tell Senator Sifuna the only discussion that we are having together is how to make Kiambu a better bedroom, because you see it is the bedroom of Nairobi, and for him to make an environment for the hawkers and business people and the matatus to work here in Nairobi. Anything to do with orange, the only orange thing I can be associated with is that citrus tennis ball looking fruit called orange. Anything else is not here nor there. Mr. Speaker, as I support the second reading of this proposal, this House is being gracious enough, benevolent enough to share the 2 slots that they were supposed to have, and giving one to the Public Service Commission and the other one to the Political Parties Liaison Committee. Mr. Speaker, what I would want us not to do is to even try to come up with a criteria of how these entities are supposed to elect their members. We cannot tell the inter-Christian or inter-religious council how to elect. I think it's a body that understands their mandate. Just the way we are not telling the lawyers, we need wakili wa mashamba, we need a constitutional lawyer. They know who to bring to this panel. And the same thing, we are thinking about the next election, not this election. I don't even understand what the majority or the minority means now, because you don't know the next government that is coming. So all we need is men and women of integrity to be appointed to this panel, so that they can have a nice commission that is not partisan. Mr. Speaker, this amendment, I can call it a multi-partisan, it's bringing a multi-partisan panel of people from different sides of political divide. The Parliamentary Service Commission, that's where the politicians are. The Public Service Commission, that's where the workers of the nation are. The Interreligious Council, that's where our faith is. The Law Society of Kenya, that's where the learned friends are. And of course, when it comes to the political parties, Mr. Speaker, and that's why without anticipating debate, I wouldn't be supporting the amendment that will be coming, because, Mr. Speaker, you cannot tell the political parties liaison committee to select the majority and the minority parties there. What about the smallest parties, Mr. Speaker? The Tujibebes of this world, Tujiweke and all those parties, Mr. Speaker. We need them also to vote and have a voice. Because if you say the majority people, I always say here in this assembly, Mr. Speaker, in this Senate, Mr. Speaker, I have the majority votes in this Senate from the Kenya Kwanza side. Honorable Sifuna, the majority votes from the Azimio side. But you only have one vote. Otherwise, if you want them to bring somebody here so that the majority can be voting, then I should have 3 or 4 votes in this Senate, Mr. Speaker. One man, one vote. So that one should be kept in their mind when they're selecting their members. Mr. Speaker, I'm happy when I see my good friend, Senator Osotsi, talking about the formation of the Commission of Inquiry. Mr. Speaker, the government is going to do that. The government is going to do that. You know, we formed a formation of inquiry of the Cherera 4, and they advised them to resign, not to speak to this inquiry. Now they're asking for the inquiry, Mr. Speaker. That inquiry will come because we want to make sure that this country will have the best election that will be emulated by other nations. And Mr. Speaker, we'll be bringing more amendments. We'll be bringing more amendments in the election law, because we do not also want IEBC to be moving on their own motion, not to clear certain candidates, Mr. Speaker. We have to bring that amendment so that we make sure that they cannot deny anybody a chance to run by their own motion what the lawyer says, suo moto. I support the second amendment.
The Honorable Senator for Laikipia, and as you contribute, the Honorable Senator Enoch Wamboa, who is online, should be ready to contribute after the Senator for Laikipia.
Asante Bwana Spika kunipa fursa hii. Kwanza kabisa nasimama kuunga mkono na kusema ya kwamba ni vizuri hili jopo la uteuzi lilivyotengenezwa, Bwana Spika. Na Bwana Spika, nikiangalia naona ya kwamba vile ambavyo liliko ni lizuri kabisa. Bwana Spika, ukweli wa mambo ni ya kwamba wakati wote sheria ambayo inahusu uchaguzi inapoletwa inashughulikiwa, kumekuwa na vurugu na mvutano, lakini kwa wakati huu Bwana Spika, nina furaha kwa sababu tutaongea kwa amani bila vurugu na kuelewana, kwa sababu hizi sheria za uchaguzi zinahusu wa Kenya wote. Na nimesikia maseneta wenzangu, nikimsikiza Senator Ototi akisema ya kwamba kuna wale ambao hawapaswi kuwa kiangaliwa zaidi, wale wanapaswa kuwa kiangaliwa ni vyama. Lakini nikimwambia kwamba watu wote wana sehemu katika uchaguzi, kwa sababu uchaguzi si wanasiasa wenyewe peke yake wale ambao wanashughulikia siasa, kwa sababu wakati wa kupiga kura hata wale ambao ni watu wa kanisa, wale ambao ni wafanyikazi wa umma wana lile jukumu ya kupiga kura na wanafanya uamuzi, Bwana Spika. Kwa hivyo ni vizuri kila mtu ahusishwe, na mimi nasimama kuunga mkono na kusema ya kwamba hii sehemu moja ambayo imepatiwa hawa ambao ni watume ya utumishi wa umma, wale wabaki pale, kwa sababu wale ndio wanajua mambo ya kusema kisheria, hasa nikisema kuhusu professionalism, wale ndio ambao watashughulikia zaidi. Na nimesikiza ndugu zangu wakisema ya kwamba ati hii ni sehemu ya serikali. Bwana Spika, watumishi wa umma wale si utawaweka kwa serikali hii au hii, kwa sababu wale wanafanya na serikali iliyoko, na hata japokuwa nilisikia akisema ati wanapoteuliwa, wakiteuliwa na rais ni mpaka waletwe katika bunge, na bunge lenyewe lina usemi, wanaweza kukataa ama kukubali. Kwa hivyo bunge lina usemi katika sehemu ile. Bwana Spika, ile ambavyo imetengenezwa kusema ya kwamba kuwe na watu katika tume ya bunge, mtu mmoja, mwanaume mmoja na mwanamke mmoja, mimi naunga mkono 100% Bwana Spika. Na vile vile Bwana Spika, utumishi wa umma ni mpaka washughulikiwe. Mahali ambapo nina tashwishi Bwana Spika ni hii hawa wanasheria. Kila mahali kukitajwa katika serikali ama katika sheria, unapata ni mpaka hawa wanasheria watajwe. Ile tume ya wanasheria ni mpaka watajwe kila mahali Bwana Spika. Swali ni hili, una wale ambao ni madaktari Bwana Spika, na wale ambao Bwana Spika ni wahandisi, hata wanapaswa kushughulikiwa. Kwa hivyo naona Senator Okongo Omugeni akisema pana ni mpaka waangaliwe kwa sababu yeye ni mwanasheria. Naona Steward wa Mazao akisema mpaka ni waangaliwe ni wanasheria. Lakini Bwana Spika, ninaona Karungo Wadhango hapa ambaye si mwanasheria, na yeye ataangaliwa wakati gani? Bwana Spika, ni vizuri hata badala ya kusema watu wa kutoka LSK waangaliwe, Bwana Spika, pengine wangesema mwanasheria tu, ndiposa hata wale wangesema mwanasheria tu ndio hata wao waweze kuangaliwa. Bwana Spika, wale ambao ni wachungaji ama our religious organization. Bwana Spika, nimesikia wengine wakisema ati ni mpaka tuzingatie na tuseme zaidi kusema ati mmoja awe ni Muislamu na yule mwingine awe ni Mkristiano. Lakini Bwana Spika, hakuna haja sisi kusema hayo yote kwa sababu wao wenyewe wanajua vile ambavyo wanapaswa kufanya. Kwa hivyo Bwana Spika, mimi nitafuatilia hii na nasema naunga mkono Bwana Spika, kwa sababu sheria hizi ndizo zitakazosaidia uendelezi tukiendelea mbele.
Enoch Wambua, is he online? Can we proceed, Senator Enoch Wambua, to make your contribution? Do we have some technical challenge, clerk, so that we skip and move to the next senator?
Mr. Speaker.
Yes, proceed, Senator Enoch. Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and sorry for that technical hitch. I hope I can be heard now. Mr. Speaker.
Senator Enoch, kindly put your camera on. We need to see where you are. And you know you need to be dressed appropriately.
Mr. Speaker, I want to do that, but the network will not sustain that.
You may not be able to proceed without the camera on.
Okay, Mr. Speaker.
Because we need to know your location and how you're dressed. Proceed.
No, Mr. Senator Kenya, what is the problem? Can I proceed? Can I make a contribution? Mr. Speaker, I want to begin by saying that this is a very important bill that is on the floor of the Senate. And Mr. Speaker, if I can be heard.
Senator Enoch Wambua.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
You are not properly dressed. You know,
this is a Kenyan dress. This is a flag of the Republic of Kenya, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Wambua, the mere fact that there's a flag on what you are described as your top, it does not meet the dress code as required by the standards of the Senate. You may be proceeding maybe to a soccer pitch.
Okay,
so I'm
Speaker,
afraid you may not proceed. I'm afraid, Senator Wambua, you may not be able to proceed to make your contribution because you're not dressed appropriately for the House. So, Senator Kisang.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I beg to make my comments. One, Honorable Speaker, we make laws for posterity. And this particular law, it is good that it has come at the beginning of the term of this parliament, because if it comes towards campaign period, you know, the temperatures are very high. So I believe we are going to debate soberly and agree on issues. Honorable Speaker, on the Public Service Commission nominee, we know Public Service Commission are the experts in terms of HR issues in the country. I believe it's very important that we get a nominee from Public Service Commission in that selection panel to guide and help, so that we don't eventually appoint people to IBC commission, like the 4 who almost banned the country, Honorable Speaker, it's important that we get people who of integrity who will interview and vet properly. Honorable Speaker, on the one position for Parliamentary Service Commission, I believe it is important that we have 2, so that the minority side produce 1 and the majority side produce 1. The Law Society of Kenya, they are not very important here, Honorable Speaker, because even in the laws that we passed in the National Assembly in the last Parliament, everywhere they say you have to a lawyer. Why can't we remove the nominee from Law Society of Kenya, put on Parliamentary Service Commission, and then we put a rider that one of them must be a lawyer to take care of lawyers if we need legal expertise in this election panel, Honorable Speaker. So this is what I believe needs to be done. Honorable Speaker, on interreligious, we know we are the country is 80% Christians and then 20% the others. We should not specify. We give them the opportunity, the leeway to choose. Maybe this time they choose a Catholic or a Protestant, and the next time a Muslim or an Hindu to represent the interreligious in this particular selection panel. The problem that we have in the country, Honorable Speaker, is actually not the commissioners or the selection panel. The issue is we don't accept elections. People don't accept when they're debated. It is good. If you don't win, you accept and move on. Because we are 67 in this house, 47 elected senators. There are many who contested and lost, and they accepted. The issue is at the top, the president's level. People don't accept. IBC have embraced technology. The reason why we have a president currently, it is because of technology. If there was no technology, those who went to bombers of Kenya, they would have changed the results. But we had the results way before. It was very difficult for anybody to manipulate and announce or declare somebody who had not gotten the votes. It's because of technology. IBC have embraced technology, and this is the way to go. In fact, eventually, if it is possible, in the course of the term of this parliament, the parties, we need to also encourage the parties to use technology when they're doing their primaries, because there are many issues across all the political divides when it comes to primaries of political parties towards a general election. Honorable Speaker, mine is just to say, let us debate soberly, let us agree, and I propose that the chair of CHAILAC, Honorable Sigei, if there are amendments that you're going to bring in the afternoon, you can drop the nominee from LSK and move it to Parliamentary Service Commission, and I believe members will agree, so long as we put a rider that that particular member, one of them, to be a lawyer, to give maybe legal advice during the selection panel as they maybe appoint or interview commissioners of IEPC. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I support.
Senator Okongo Mogeni.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also rise to make a contribution on this very important bill. But, Mr. Speaker, I'm really saddened by the attack, the spirited attack I've seen in the House this morning and part of the afternoon against lawyers, more particularly Law Society of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, people are talking as if they don't know the history of this country. Law Society has been in the thick of things. It's Law Society that fought for multi-party democracy in this country, Mr. Speaker. How can we sit here attacking Law Society of Kenya the whole morning as if we don't know about the history of this country? Mr. Speaker, the Law Society of Kenya, I want to inform the honorable members, is a statutory body created by an act of parliament. I mean, look at the mandate of Law Society.
What is your point about Senator Boni?
And your son is a lawyer.
I don't wish to interrupt my colleague, who I respect very much. But just because we want to have a clear record of proceedings for posterity, may the record show that the people who fought for the second liberations was not limited to Law Society alone. In fact, Mr. Speaker, I was in the struggle from the age of 22 at the University of Nairobi up to until we had succeeded. could he withdraw the fact that it was only Law Society of Kenya, Mr. Speaker, sir?
Mr. Speaker, I thought doctors normally listen carefully. And when I was, so I'm surprised that Senator Bonga Luali does not seem to be listening keenly. I said Law Society was in the forefront. I've not said you are not in the forefront. I've said that history bears me witness that Law Society has been in the forefront. So, Mr. Speaker, this is not the first time Law Society of Kenya is participating as a panelist in picking commissioners for IBC. Mr. Speaker, when I was the chair of Law Society of Kenya, Mr. Speaker, LSK was given slots. Under my chairmanship, we picked nominees that picked the commissioners that reformed IBC. So, Mr. Speaker, let's appreciate the fact that Law Society is a very key professional body in this country. Law Society has been in the forefront, even defending people who fought for human rights in this country. And the best way we should recognize, Mr. Speaker, that role is by giving them 2 slots, not even 1. We should give them 2. 1 woman, 1 man. Instead of packing these nominees with Public Service Commission, why do we want to pack Public Service Commission as panelists in picking panelists who are going to interview our IBC commissioners? Mr. Speaker, the best way to approach this matter is to allow non-partisan professional bodies, civil society. In fact, during that time when we were given slots at Law Society, we had the Association of Professional Societies of East Africa sending a nominee. The Advisory Board of Anti-Corruption was sending a nominee. So, Mr. Speaker, I hope Senator Kinyua is listening, that Law Society is not an animal that you need to demonize. When the system will come for you, it will at some stage, you will run to the same Law Society of Kenya to defend you. So you should be here acknowledging the good work, the good contribution that the Law Society of Kenya has made to this country. So I want to persuade my colleague senators, please, this is a law you are making for posterity. This law will not just serve the commissioners that are being picked now. It is for posterity. So don't, please, I appeal to you, don't remove Law Society of Kenya. In fact, what we should do, as I've urged, is to have 2 representatives, not 1, 2. Yes, and I'm happy that even Senator Mungatana is in support of this proposition. And Mr. Speaker, you know you are also a lawyer. Mr. Speaker, you are a lawyer. When we fight for expansion of democracy as Law Society of Kenya, we are applauded. But when we are being given a small slot, just a small slot to be panelists.
What is your point of order, Senator Kinyua? Really?
Bwana Spika, si kusema ya kwamba Bwana Spika ati mimi nadharau hili jopo la wanasheria. Lakini nilisema Bwana Spika, nchi yetu ya Kenya ina watu wengi ambao wameshughulikia katika kazi nyingine. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Senator Okongo Omogeni kusema ya kwamba sasa hata hilo jopo liongezewe watu wengine kwa sababu wewe ni mwanasheria, kwa Kenya wataona ya kwamba wewe Bwana Spika tayari unawapendelea wengine Bwana Spika. Kwa hivyo nilitaka tu Bwana Spika kuwa upande wako ndio usije ukaonekana unapendelea wengine. Sisi hatuna shida na wanasheria Bwana Spika, kwa sababu wao ndio tunatutetea wakati tuko na shida katika Jamhuri ya Kenya. Lakini wazingatie Wakenya wengine ambao si wanasheria.
What is your point of order? I've not gotten it. Kindly proceed, Senator Mogeni, to conclude your contribution. I think you had 19 seconds.
Yes. So Mr. Speaker, the other point I wanted to make, Mr. Speaker, is that because this is bipartisan, we want both sides of the political divide to be represented. The Parliamentary Service Commission, Mr. Speaker, should be given 2 slots so that we have a slot preserved for the majority side and 1 for the minority side. With those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I support.
Senator, what is your point of order?
Mr. Speaker, I rise on a point of order, understanding order number 109. Considering the debate, Mr. Speaker, and the contributions from members, and the time that we have, Mr. Speaker, I wish to request that you call the mover of the motion to reply, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Senators, the Honorable Senator Mandago has made, through his contribution, he has requested that indeed, due to the time constraints, because as you're aware, we need to conclude business by 12:30, that the chair calls the mover to reply. I'll proceed to put the question. As many of that opinion say aye. Aye. As many as of the contrary opinion say nay. Nay. The ayes have it. The mover proceed to reply, please.
Mr. Speaker, you know, this is one of the standing orders we need to amend. Because, you know, people like Senator Kajwang have the voice, have the sound of two people. So he voted on behalf of two people. Anyway, Mr. Speaker, apologies to my colleagues. And you know that we've been here since 10 o'clock. Even I'd have it, if Senator Kajwang was here when I made the moving notes, he will have known that I did it in a record 4 minutes, because I wanted to, as much as possible. No. Actually, I think 3 minutes, if I'm not wrong. I wanted to, as much as possible, afford the opportunity to every senator to speak and share their opinion. The real debate, though, because I've listened to people say, there's this debate about LSK. I hear Senator Kinyua wants to propose that we deny LSK and give it to members of his professional association. I think that Touts Association of Kenya, and whatever, the decision will be made in the afternoon, Mr. Speaker. So I want to humbly request our colleagues, Mr. Speaker, that but Omtata should have been here at 10 in the morning when we first made these orders. I'm sure he will have an opportunity in the afternoon. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I thank my colleagues for speaking to the motion, those who have had a chance. I've listened to others make a case for interreligious council. Others prefer that we reduce the other one. We will have that conversation during the committee of the whole, Mr. Speaker, when people file their amendments and perhaps share them with us, then we will be convinced on what we need to do. Otherwise, thank you, members, for participating. Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity. I beg to reply. Thank you.
Honorable Senators, pursuant to Standing Order 263, I do make a determination that the voting will be by roll call in view of the hybrid sitting. I therefore call upon the Sergeant at Arms to ring the division bell for 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Sergeant at Arms, kindly close the doors and proceed to draw the bar. Who? Four? The lady four? Honorable Senators, can we take our seats, please? Honorable Senators, Senator Shakila Abdallah, you're out of order. Kindly take your seat. Honorable Senators, I now proceed to put the question that the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bills number 49 of 2022, be now read a second time. The yes side, you have nominated Lelegwe, Senator Lelegwe, as your teller. Is that the position? Yes. And the nay side nominated, who is the tailor for? Who is the tailor for the nay side? Shakila, Senator Shakila. Who is it Senator Shakila, or kindly proceed to the dispatch? So, clerk, you may now proceed with the division.
Senator Abbas Sheikh Mohammed, Wajir County. Senator Adan Dulo Fatuma, Isiolo County.
I vote yes.
Senator Boy Isa Juma, Kwale County. Senator Cherarke Samson, Nandi County. Senator Cheriot Aaron, Kericho County.
Mr. Speaker, I vote yes.
Senator Chesang Alan Kiprotich, Trans Nzoia County.
Mr. Speaker, I vote yes.
Senator Chute Mohammed Said, Marsabit County. Senator Ekomwa James Romenen, Turkana County.
I vote yes.
Senator Haji Abdul Mohammed, Garissa County.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I vote yes.
Senator Kajwang Moses Otieno, Homa Bay County.
I vote yes.
Senator Kamau Joseph Githuku, Lamu County.
Mr. Speaker, I vote yes.
Senator Kathuri Murungi, Meru County.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I vote yes.
Senator Keroche Thabita Karanja, Nakuru County. Senator Halwale Boni, Kakamega County.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I vote yes.
Senator Kipkoril William Cheptumo, Baringo County. Senator Kisang William Kipkemoi, Elgeyo Marakwet County. Senator Kisang William Kipkemoi, Elgeyo Marakwet County. Senator Lelewe Steve Tumbesi, Samburu County.
Mr. Speaker, I vote yes.
Senator Maanzo Daniel, Makueni County. Senator Mazayo Stewart, Kilifi County.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I vote yes.
Senator Mandago Jackson, Uasin Gishu County.
Mr. Speaker, I vote yes.
Senator Medhu John, Nyandarua County.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I vote yes.
Senator Mogeni Okongo, Nyamira County.
Mr. Speaker, Nyamira votes yes.
Senator Mundigi Alexander, Embu County. Senator Mungatana Danson, Tana River County.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I vote yes.
Senator Murango James, Kirinyaga County. Senator Mudhama Agnes Kavindu, Machakos County. Senator Mwaruma Jones, Taita Taveta County. Senator Mwenda Gataya Mofaya, Tharaka Nithi County.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I vote yes.
Senator Mwinyi Haji Mohamed Faki, Mombasa County. Senator Nderitu John Kinywa, Laikipia County.
Mr. Speaker, Laikipia votes yes.
Senator Nyutu Joe, Murang'a County.
Senator Veronica Maina, kindly proceed to approach the chair, please. Yeah. Just proceed as I try to do some housekeeping.
Senator Ojenda Tom, Kisumu County.
I obviously vote yes.
What is obviously?
Senator Oginga Oburu, Siaya County. Senator Okech Eddie Gisheru, Migori County. Senator Okoiti Omtata, Busia County. Senator Olekina Ledama, Narok County. Senator Onyonka Richard, Kisii County. Senator Ososi Godfrey, Vihiga County.
I vote yes.
Senator Recha Julius Murgol, West Pokot County.
Mr. Speaker, I vote yes.
Senator Roba Ari Ibrahim, Mandera County.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I vote yes.
Senator Seki Lenku, Kajiado County.
Yes.
Senator Sifuna Edwin, Nairobi County.
Mr. Speaker, I vote yes.
Senator Thangwa Paul Karungo, Kiambu County.
I vote yes.
Senator Wafula David Wakoli, Bungoma County.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I vote yes.
Senator Wakili Hirar Sigei, Bomet County.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I vote yes.
Senator Wamatinga Wahome, Nyeri County. Senator Wambua Enoch Kiyo, Kitui County. Senator Abbas Sheikh Mohamed Wajir County, Senator Boy Isa Juma Kwale County, Senator Cherargei Samson Nandi County, Senator Chute Mohamed Marsabit County, Senator Keroche Tabitha Karanja Nakuru County, Senator Kipukorir William Cheptumo Baringo County, Senator Kisang William Kipkemoi Elgeyo Marakwet County,
Elgeyo Marakwet County, 40 yes.
Senator Manso Daniel Makueni County, Senator Mundigi Alexander Munyi Embu County,
Embu County yes.
Senator Murango James Kamau Kirinyaga County, Senator Mudhama Agnes Kavindu Machakos County.
Mr. Speaker, I vote yes with the amendments, and we were to also to contribute. So in the afternoon, I hope we'll be given the opportunity to contribute.
Senator, just vote and take your seat.
I vote yes.
Thank you.
Senator Mwaruma Jones Taita Taveta County, Senator Mwinyi Haji Mohamed Faki Mombasa County, Senator Nyutu Joe Murang'a County, Senator Oginga Oburu Siaya County, Senator Okech Edi Gisheru Migori County, Senator Okoit Andrew Omtata Busia County, Senator Orekina Ledama Narok County, Senator Onyonka Richard Kisii County, Senator Wamatinga Wahome Nyeri County, and Senator Wambua Enoch Kiyo Kitui County.
Honorable Speaker, my name is
Honorable members, you need to understand that the House is still very much in session, and Senator Professor, you don't just cross as if you're from one bedroom to the other. You know the rules of the House, Professor. Kindly proceed to bow and Honorable Senators, the voting is now complete and the results are in as follows. The ayes 29, noes 0, abstentions 0. So the ayes have it. Clerk, proceed to read the bill a second time.
A bill for an act of parliament to amend the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission Act and for connected purposes.
Honorable Senators, there being no other business on the order paper, the Senate stands adjourned until today, 19th January 2023 at 2:30 p.m. I thank you, Honorable Senators.
Ngati munju ati wanugolabawo waliwo bazanyo wano nateekanga nga poti weteeka poti eno nga mwetusula